the voice of a new generation.
This is KIC Radio.
Welcome to Stuck in the Gravel. You're here with
Daniel
and Chloe. Today we'll be discussing the third round of the Formula One season held in Suzuka, Japan.
Now, on to Friday. Practice. Free practice 1. In the first practice session for the 2025 Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka, McLaren's Lando Norris set the fastest lap with a time of 1:28.549. His teammate Oscar Piastri also showcased strong performance, highlighting McLaren's competitiveness on this circuit. Yuki Tsunoda, in his debut for Red Bull, impressed by finishing 6th, just a 10th behind Max Verstappen. The session proceeded smoothly, without significant incidents, allowing teams to gather valuable data for the weekend ahead.
On to FP2. McLaren's Oscar Piastri topped the timesheets with a lap of 1 minute 28 and 1/10, narrowly edging out teammate Lando Norris by almost 500ths. Racing Bull's Isaac Hadjar secured third place, trailing Piastri by 0.5 of a second. And the session was notably disrupted by 4 red flags, an early high-speed crash involving Jack Doohan and Alpine, Fernando Alonso's off-track excursion into the gravel, and 2 separate grass fires trackside, possibly ignited by sparks from the cars. These interruptions limited teams' opportunities for extended runs and data collection. Despite the chaotic session, local favourite Yuki Tsunoda delivered a commendable performance, finishing just behind Max Verstappen, who struggled with understeer and concluded FP2 in 8th position.
Now, on to Saturday. On Saturday, April 5th, 2025, the Suzuka circuit hosted both the final practice session and the qualifying round for the Grand Prix. In free practice 3, McLaren dominated the session with Lando Norris setting the fastest lap at a 1:27.965, narrowly ahead of teammate Oscar Piastri by almost 300ths of a second. George Russell secured third place for Mercedes, trailing by 1/10. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc and Red Bull's Max Verstappen completed the top 5, with Verstappen focusing on race preparations by running primarily on hard tyres before a late switch to softs. The session was twice interrupted by grass fires at turns 12 and 15, caused by sparks from the cars igniting dry grass, echoing similar incidents from the previous day's practice. Notable performances included Williams' Alexander Albon and Alpine's Pierre Gasly, finishing 7th and 8th respectively, while Yuki Tsunoda in his debut for Red Bull continued to impress by securing 9th place. These results highlighted McLaren's strong form leading into the qualifying sessions.
On to the qualifying results. Max Verstappen secured pole position with a record-breaking lap of 1:26.983, overcoming earlier challenges with his Red Bull's drivability. McLaren's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri closely followed, highlighting McLaren's competitive edge. Notably, rookie Ollie Behrman achieved a top 10 start for Haas, employing an aggressive approach inspired by the video game iRacing, which involved taking risks on chicane curbs. The session faced interruptions due to grass fires caused by sparks igniting dry turf, leading to delays. These qualifying outcomes set the stage for an exciting race, with Verstappen aiming to convert his pole into victory amid unpredictable weather conditions.
Now, here's the rundown of how qualifying went. Max Verstappen in first place with a 1:26.983, Lando Norris in second with a 1:26.995, Oscar Piastri in third with a 1:27.027, Charles Leclerc in fourth with a 1:27.299, George Russell in fifth place with a 1:27.318, Kimi Antonelli in sixth with a 1:27.555, Isaac Hadjar in seventh with a 1:27.569, Lewis Hamilton in eighth with a 1:27.610, Alex Albon in ninth with a 1:27.615, Oliver Behrman in 10th with a 1:27.867, Pierre Gasly in 11th with a 1:27.822, Fernando Alonso in 12th with a 1:27.897. In 13th was Liam Lawson with a 1:27.906, out-qualifying newly promoted Red Bull driver Yuki Tsunoda. who was in 14th with a 128 flat. Carlos Sainz was in 15th with a 127.836, but he also received a 3-place grid penalty for impeding Lewis Hamilton in Q2. Nico Hülkenberg in 16th with a 128.570. Gabriel Bortoleto in 17th with a 128.622. Esteban Ocon in 18th with a 128.696. Jack Doohan in 19th with a 128.877. And Lance Stroll rounding off the grid in P20 with a 129.271.
Some notable incidents included Isaac Hadjar, who faced discomfort due to twisted seatbelts during qualifying, but managed to secure 7th position. Carlos Sainz Jr. received a 3-place grid penalty for impeding Lewis Hamilton during Q2. These results set the stage for an exciting race, with Max Verstappen leading the pack and McLaren's strong performance indicating a competitive contest ahead.
Now, on to Sunday. The 2025 Japanese Grand Prix witnessed Max Verstappen clinching his 4th consecutive victory at this venue, marking his first win of the season and narrowing the championship gap to just 1 point behind leader Lando Norris. Starting from pole position, Verstappen maintained the lead throughout the race, finishing with a time of 1 hour, 22 minutes and nearly 7 seconds. McLaren's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri secured 2nd and 3rd places, respectively, with Norris trailing by almost 1.4 seconds and Piastri by 2.1.
A notable incident occurred during the pit stops when Verstappen and Norris exited the pit lane side by side, leading to Norris veering off track. Norris expressed frustration over the radio, claiming he was forced off, but the stewards reviewed the incident and deemed no further investigation necessary.
In a historic achievement, Andrea Kimi Antonelli of Mercedes became both the youngest driver to lead a Formula One race and the youngest to set the fastest lap, recording a time of 1:30.965. Additionally, Jack Doohan of Alpine, after a high-speed crash during Friday's practice, faced scrutiny for potentially violating FIA regulations by competing while possibly impaired, as he required assistance to exit his car post-race.
This victory marks Max Verstappen as the first driver in history to win 4 consecutive races at Suzuka, underscoring Red Bull's strategic focus and Verstappen's exceptional skill. The championship standings still remain intensely competitive, with Norris leading at 62 points, closely followed by Verstappen at 61 and Piastri at 49.
Now, on to key moments and battles. Max Verstappen's dominant performance starting from pole position. Max led the race from start to finish, showcasing exceptional skill and a strategy. A critical moment occurred during the pit stops when Verstappen and championship rival Lando Norris exited the pit lane side by side. Norris attempted to overtake, but Verstappen apparently forced him off. But this also allowed Verstappen to maintain his lead. This incident sparked discussions about racing etiquette and team strategies.
McLaren's internal dynamics and decisions to allow both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri equal footing in the race led to internal competition that may have undermined their potential. While both drivers secured podium finishes, they couldn't effectively challenge Verstappen, even with faster cars and strategic opportunities.
On to an emerging talent such as Andrea Kimi Antonelli. We've noticed that he's made a significant impact coming into the sport by being able to be the youngest driver to lead a Formula One race and set the fastest lap of a race. His performance highlighted the potential and added to excitement to the race. And I think after 3 races, what he's done, fantastic, you know what I mean?
I think, considering, know that for definite after the second race, a few weeks ago, him and George are very close in standings wise, and as much as it's only been 3 races, I think when you've got a rookie who's
Breathing down your neck.
Yeah, especially after like 6. This is George Russell's 6th season, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's just impeccable, because when Piastri, who's now like very competitive and very high up in the standings as well, if we think back to when he joined, he wasn't really challenging Lando much. Like, he was getting kind of to grips with the car.
There was differences with the car, I suppose.
Yeah, but I think because at the end of the season they managed to like improve the car, but then he was kind of still getting to grips with it and adapting. But I think what Andrea Kimi Antonelli has done is just
quite remarkable, to be
Like,
fair.
yeah.
I'm pleased for the guy. I think he's done quite a good job coming into such a difficult sport whilst also finishing his exams in Italy,
Yeah.
which,
Well,
it's a lot of pressure, I'll tell you that.
like, just got his driver's license as well.
And there's
Not
a-
even an Italian one.
And there's a lot of us complaining about just doing
Yeah.
exams, so I do feel for the guy.
But not just that, the fact that he's travelling like
Yeah.
a lot more now, because obviously he's come from F3, F2, where they do travel quite a bit, but not as much as
It's not the
Formula 1.
same extent now.
And it's not like they don't have the consecutive of like the fact that this is the start of triple header, and they don't really have that in F2 and F3 as much.
There's a lot of breaks, yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that he's fighting with jet lag, doing exams, just general exhaustion of like,
It is a lot of...
and then coming out and scoring huge points that are going to be crucial for Mercedes. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
On to Jack Doohan's controversial weekend. He faced scrutiny following a high-speed crash during Friday's practice, reportedly due to a driver error involving the drag reduction system, DRS. The crash shocked the paddock and raised questions about his adherence to safety regulations. In the race, Doohan finished 15th but required assistance to exit his car post-race, leading to speculation about a possible violation of FIA regulations regarding driver impairment. The FIA regulations mandate that drivers must be able to exit their vehicles unassisted within 5 seconds, leading to speculation that Doohan may have violated Article 13.1 by competing while possibly impaired.
On to team strategies and pit stop battles. The race featured strategic battles, particularly during pit stops. Verstappen's ability to maintain his lead despite close racing with Norris highlighted Red Bull's effective strategy and Verstappen's driving prowess. McLaren's approach, which involved pitting both drivers on the same lap, led to on-track battles that may have cost him time and position. These key moments and battles contributed to a thrilling race, influencing both the championship standings and team dynamics as the season progresses.
Let's move on to driver performances then. Max Verstappen clinched his first win of the season, making his fourth victory at Suzuka. Starting from pole, he maintained a flawless race, finishing 1.423 seconds ahead of Lando Norris. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner praised it as one of Verstappen's best performances.
On to Lando Norris. Norris demonstrated consistent speed, qualifying second and finishing as runner-up. He engaged in a tense battle with Verstappen during pit stops, briefly losing position, but couldn't close the gap in the final laps.
Piastri secured the final spot on the podium, qualifying third and finishing third, just over 300ths of a second behind Norris. He showed strong pace, but was occasionally held up by team orders favouring Norris.
For Charles Leclerc, he exceeded expectations by qualifying fourth, outperforming the Mercedes drivers. He maintained position during the race, finishing fourth, and effectively keeping the Mercedes duo at bay.
Russell qualified fifth ahead of teammate Andrea Kimi Antonelli. During the race, he struggled with pace, making an early pit stop to undercut Leclerc, but rejoined in traffic, ultimately finishing fifth, just ahead of Antonelli.
For Andrea Kimi Antonelli in his debut race, he's impressed everyone by qualifying sixth and finishing sixth. He led laps early on and set the fastest lap of the race, becoming the youngest driver to do so in F1 history.
Tsunoda, in his first race with Red Bull, faced challenges, qualifying 15th and finishing 12th. He gained one position at the start but struggled to progress further, going off at the chicane during the race. The 2025 Grand Prix at Suzuka provided valuable insights into the performances of the top teams, McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari.
When we look at McLaren, the strengths that they have are the qualifying pace. Both Lando and Oscar secured strong starting positions, highlighting McLaren's one-lap speed. They have a fair race strategy that can be effective at times, and it was able to keep them. They was able to maintain the positions throughout the race, but potentially, if they cleaned up some aspects of the strategy, they could be further up. Moving on to weaknesses, we feel that despite their qualifying speed, they couldn't match Red Bull's race pace, leading to a lack of challenge for the win. And that moves us on typically to team orders. The strategy of giving both drivers equal footing led to internal competition. potentially hindering their collective performance. I mean, I'm I'm a Lando fan, okay? But personally, do I think Oscar should have been let past? Maybe. They've chose, they went out on Saturday, qualified where they qualified. And I think maybe there comes to a certain point where you have to give the place up. As much as I don't like that because, you know, but for me, I think I don't know. It was tricky conditions. I'm not sure Oscar would have got past, and we can't say for certain, but I think potentially. It's always one of those. It's a case of. It's a difficult one. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah,
I think the only times that teams should interfere is if it's going to cost points. Do you know what I mean? So say that you've got one driver that's race pace just isn't there. Something's gone wrong with the car, or the driver's just having a rough day and they're not performing the best. And then they say, well, we want you to switch. Let so-and-so round.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Then that's fair enough, because obviously they want to optimise on the points that they can get. But I think sometimes if you're hindering them of showing their quality as a driver, then there's just no need.
See, I understand where you're coming from with that, but I feel what we saw with at the Australian GP first race of the season, we know that Oscar managed to catch up to Lando. Lando led that race perfectly. Do you know what I mean? Oscar did catch up, and they got told just to hold places for the time being, just while they got past all the back markers, because they don't want to risk a 1-2. Yeah, obviously we know they didn't get the 1-2, but when they cleared the back markers, Oscar made a mistake going into one of the into the long straight. I forgot what the corner number is now, but that was a driver error.
Yeah.
And that's where, we don't, those sort of things, for all we know, if Lando had let Oscar in front, laps before, and he was to do the same thing,
Could have taken Lando out.
it could have took them both out, and it's not what McLaren needs to be risking right now.
Well, yeah, like I said, if it's optimising points of the best for the team, then I can understand it. That's understandable, because one, they don't want to risk points, but also they don't want to risk driver safety for unnecessary things. So they don't want them to be let's go racing while there's all these other cars back markers. You're going to have to slow down when there's back markers as well, because of the fact that typically they're going slower than you anyway, because they can't reach the same sort of speeds all the same. Quality of racing, if that makes sense. But there's no point of two of the fastest cars that are on track going head to head for a few points and risking no points at the end of the day. So I think that's understandable. But in terms of interference, I feel like driver safety and optimising points is your kind of line of not taking any unnecessary risks or anything like that. That's fair enough, but
yep,
they're here to race. They're here to show the performance and the quality of their driving. So, yeah.
Should we move on to Red Bull?
Yep. So, Red Bull's strengths are race pace and strategic adaptability, as shown by Max Verstappen's victory, demonstrated by Red Bull's superior race pace, allowing them to control the race from the start to the finish. And the team's ability to adjust the car setups during the weekend addressed earlier performance issues, leading to improved results. The weaknesses include qualifying performance, because while they were strong in the race, their qualifying pace was less dominant, with Verstappen starting from pole but facing challenges in earlier sessions.
Now, moving on to Mercedes, their strengths are the driver development. They've nurtured Andrea Kimi Antonelli amazingly, especially with his debut. and then also being able to get himself leading laps and setting fastest laps. They showcase that their investment in nurturing him is good, and we can see that he's a young talent. I don't want to say that it's going to be holding George back, because obviously George has got the experience, but I feel like all the attention is on Kimi Antonelli. He's clearly doing what he's doing. But he is also being led by a really good race engineer, Peter Bonington. Previously, he's had Michael Schumacher, he's had Lewis Hamilton. He's had the best of the best in sport. So will he, as an engineer, be able to push the best out of Antonelli? For all we know. When we look at race consistency, both George and Antonelli maintain positions within the top 6, reflecting that their race performances are consistent. And for the first 3 races, that's pretty good. When we look at weaknesses, the W16 car exhibited inconsistent balance, requiring drivers to adapt their driving styles. It was broadcasted first by George Russell, and that's something they could do with sorting out. And when we come to qualifying pace, Mercedes struggled to match the outright speed of McLaren and Red Bull in qualifying, affecting their starting positions. You got to think about Ferrari as well. Ferrari are in the mix. We know this. But at the moment, Ferrari aren't where they need to be, especially. And that's where it brings us on to Ferrari.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Ferrari?
Yep. So, Charles Leclerc's one-stop strategy demonstrated Ferrari's strategic thinking, moving up from 8th to 4th. Leclerc's performance highlighted his ability to maximise the car's potential under challenging conditions. But both drivers faced challenges in qualifying, with Leclerc starting from 8th, which limited their race options. Ferrari's performance variability, especially in qualifying, hindered their ability to consistently challenge for top positions. In summary, while McLaren and Red Bull showcased strengths in qualifying and race pace, respectively, both Mercedes and Ferrari displayed strategic acumen and driver skill. Addressing their respective weaknesses will be crucial as the season progresses.
Now, moving on to drivers and constructors' standings. When we look at the drivers' standings, Lando Norris leads the way with 62 points. Verstappen follows with 61. Then it's Oscar Piastri with 49, George Russell with 45, Antonelli with 30, Leclerc with 20, Albon with 18, Hamilton with 15, Ocon with 10, and Lance Stroll with 10. Then when we look at the team standings, McLaren have managed to pull a gap on Mercedes, leading the way with 111 points, first team to reach 100. Mercedes in second with 75, Red Bull Racing in third with 61, Ferrari in fourth with 35, Williams in fifth with 19, Haas in sixth with 15, Aston Martin in seventh with 10, Racing Bulls in eighth with 7, KIC Sauber in ninth with 6 points, and all the way at the back still in 10th, Alpine with 0 points.
Something notable about that one is there's teams up there that were not where they were last year.
Struggling last season, yeah.
Haas, Williams, Ferrari even.
You've got to give it to KIC Sauber as well, I'd say.
KIC as well. I think they're definitely turning around this season, aren't they? As much as they're not up there fighting for first, second, third. They're up there. They're really giving it some. I think Pierre Gasly as well. As much as Alpine have no points and he has no points, his performance has just been really good. He's just outside of the points. It's just a bit of a shame for him more than anything. But I think, but not just that, the fact that Aston Martin's only points have come from Lance Stroll and not the...
But you could also say the same about Williams, as Carlos Sainz has got no points.
True, but you can also argue, though, that Alex has settled to Williams for being there for years. Carlos is...
Yeah, true. I think that definitely needs to be looked into, because it's not just down on Carlos. In fact, I think Albon has got Sainz has got points, yeah. He's got 1 point. Albon's got 18. So 18 compared to 1, that's pretty, But people are trying to get into Carlos and say that, you're just overrated and stuff, but he's not. It's in reality, it's one of these where you just got to adapt to your new team. I mean,
Not just-
everyone's looking at Max Verstappen. Oh, back in 2016, Red Bull first race, he won that race. Brilliant, yeah. But Carlos Sainz isn't Max Verstappen, and they're two different people. So
not just that, they grew up with very different discipline situations as well.
yeah,
They've both got racing fathers, but one is arguably a bit more discipline based. The other one is more of a nurture
yeah,
into, like, with Max and Jos Verstappen, it's a bit of a, arguably they're not as kind of like father and son, kind of joking around, messing around, having a laugh.
yeah,
But Carlos and his dad, Carlos Sainz Sr., they're both racing drivers in their own right, like, respectively. Like, you'll see them doing hot laps or things, and they
yeah,
have a laugh, they mess around, and yeah, they're just both. But they'll give each other like hints and tips and push each other in different. But it's a nurture, more of a relationship. But they're a bit more banterful as well. Like, so I think that's something else. They're both grown up in different situations. They're both
yeah,
used to facing different situations about racing and how they look at the racing world. Arguably, Max Verstappen is more competitive because of the fact that he's been driven by Jos to be, you have to win and you have to dominate or you're not good enough kind of thing.
yeah.
So I think in that aspect of, yeah, but I think they're both really good in their own right.
Yeah, they are.
I think Carlos just needs to settle in properly. Arguably within like maybe a few more races.
Yeah, we need to.
Because otherwise
It gets to a point where it does become a bit of an issue.
you don't want to get halfway through the season and be like, oh, our second driver just joined us. 2 points, 3 points. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
especially when he's made this name for himself in Formula One. And he is a great driver, and I think you don't want to like let yourself down, let alone be something that people expected to be really good and then not perform. So I think, yeah, just hopefully he comes out a bit. And
On to fans' reactions and social media buzz. Motorsport commentator John Noble addressed concerns, acknowledging that while the race wasn't thrilling, it showcased Verstappen's exceptional skill. He noted that perfection is sometimes boring, but knowing the context, it surely wasn't a walk in the park for Max Verstappen.
a notable incident that involved Carlos Sainz, who faced a $36,000 fine for missing the national anthem ceremony due to a stomach issue. This decision sparked significant backlash, with fans criticising the governing body for penalising the driver over a legitimate medical condition.
Special livery and team changes. Red Bull's unveiling of a white and red livery, paying tribute to Honda's RA272. Generated considerable buzz. Fans praised the design, expressing enthusiasm on social media platforms. Additionally, the mid-season driver change with Yuki Tsunoda replacing Liam Lawson at Red Bull prompted discussions about team dynamics and driver performance. Lawson's visible distress during a team photo highlighted the emotional impact of such decisions.
Some humorous observations came when TV personality Jeremy Clarkson humorously critiqued the race's lack of overtaking, comparing it to watching cricket. He jested that F1 race this morning gave me an idea of what it might be like to watch cricket.
Now, looking ahead. The Bahrain International Circuit, BIC, located in the Sakir Desert of Bahrain, is a premier motorsport venue known for hosting the Bahrain Grand Prix, a staple in the Formula One calendar since 2004.
The length of the track is 5.412 kilometres, or 3.363 miles. There are 15 turns, and the race distance is 308.24 kilometres, or 191.53 miles, over 57 laps. Designed by Herman Tilke, The BIC features a mix of long straights and challenging corners, offering opportunities for overtaking and strategic racing. Some of the notable corners include Turn 10, which is a tight downhill, off-camber left-hander that tests drivers' precision and car handling, and Turn 12, a fast right-hander that allows drivers to push their cars to the limit, providing a thrilling segment for both drivers and spectators.
Race characteristics. The Bahrain Grand Prix is traditionally held in the evening, starting at sunset and finishing under floodlights. This schedule not only enhances the visual spectacle, but also introduces unique challenges due to temperature and track surface changes as night falls. Historical significance. Since its inaugural race in 2004, the Bahrain Grand Prix has been a significant event in the Formula One calendar, often serving as a season opener. The circuit's modern facilities and strategic location have made it a favourite among teams and fans alike. The 2025 Bahrain Grand Prix is scheduled for April 13th, marking the fourth race of the season. Fans can anticipate exciting race and action as drivers navigate the unique challenges presented by the BIC.
As the 2025 Formula One season approaches the Bahrain Grand Prix at the Bahrain International Circuit, several drivers are emerging as key contenders to watch, starting with Lando Norris. He's leading the Drivers' Championship with a narrow 1-point advantage over Max Verstappen. He's showcased consistent performance this season. McLaren's strong form, including potential podium finishes, positions him as top favourite at the Bahrain race.
Max Verstappen, the four-time world champion, aims to close the gap in the standings after a remarkable victory in Japan. Verstappen's experience and Red Bull's competitive edge make him a formidable opponent in Bahrain.
Teammate to Norris, Piastri has demonstrated impressive speed and racecraft. His performances include a win in China and a strong showing in Japan, highlight his potential to challenge for top positions in Bahrain.
Lewis Hamilton, transitioning to Ferrari, Hamilton is striving to overcome a challenging start to the season. Despite not securing a podium yet, his determination and past successes suggest a potential turnaround in Bahrain.
As a Ferrari junior, Bogdanovic is set to make his free practice debut in Bahrain, replacing Charles Leclerc for the session. His progression through the ranks and association with Ferrari's development programme make him a driver to watch.
At Mercedes for the Bahrain race, Kimi Antonelli has impressed with consistent top six finishes. His adaptability and speed position him as a noteworthy competitor in the upcoming race.
Securing points in both China and Japan, Behrman's steady performance have drawn attention. His ability to extract performance from the Haas car suggests that he could be a surprise contender in Bahrain.
Tyre strategy. Pirelli has selected the C1, hard, C2, medium, and C3, soft tyre compounds for the race. Team's performance during pre-season testing at this track provides a valuable baseline, but the typically high temperatures in Bahrain may favour teams like McLaren, known for effective tyre management.
Race predictions. McLaren's Lando Norris leads the Drivers' Championship by a slim margin over Max Verstappen, both of whom have demonstrated strong performances this season. However, the challenging nature of the Bahrain circuit, with its abrasive track surface and numerous hard braking zones, may impact tyre wear and open opportunities for other teams.
Weather considerations. The forecast for April 13th predicts clear conditions with a high of 23 degrees Celsius, which should not pose significant challenges for tyre performance. In summary, while McLaren and Red Bull are expected to be front-runners, Ferrari's recent upgrades and Mercedes' consistent form suggest a competitive race ahead. Teams' abilities to manage tyre degradation and adapt strategies to the demanding Bahrain circuit will be crucial in determining the race outcome.
On to breaking news. FIA leadership are facing turmoil, facing a leadership crisis following the resignation of executive Robert Reid. Reid cited a fundamental breakdown in government standards and criticised the lack of transparency and accountability within the organisation. His departure adds to growing concerns over the FIA's direction, especially after multiple high-profile exits in the last 18 months. In response, Mercedes driver George Russell expressed concerns about the FIA's stability, emphasising the need for improved collaboration between teams, Formula One management and the FIA to restore stability.
For driver controversies, Australian rookie Jack Doohan is under scrutiny after a crash during Friday's practice. We've already spoken about this, but we've seen onboard footage revealing that he needed assistance to exit his car, raising questions about a possible violation of FIA regulations. There's speculation going around suggesting that he may have competed impaired, fueling rumours of a potential replacement by reserve driver Franco Colapinto.
Driver and team reactions. So Lando Norris admitted that McLaren needs to take more risks in certain scenarios after reviewing their strategy that allowed Max to overtake them during the Japanese Grand Prix. He acknowledged that a conservative approach may have cost them the race and emphasised the importance of being more aggressive in future races.
There will be 6 rookies taking part in FP1. In compliance with Formula One's regulations mandating that each team must field a rookie driver, defined as someone with no more than 2 Grand Prix starts. During 2 practice sessions per season, 6 teams have announced their FP1 lineups for the upcoming Bahrain Grand Prix. The selected rookies are set to gain valuable experience by replacing regular drivers during the first practice session on Friday.
At Ferrari, Dino Beganovic is replacing Charles Leclerc. Beganovic, a 21-year-old Swedish driver, is a member of Ferrari's driver academy and will make his official F1 debut in this session.
For Red Bull Racing, Ayumu Iwasa replaces Max Verstappen. Iwasa, 23, is a Japanese driver currently leading the Super Formula Championship and is part of Red Bull's junior programme.
Over at Mercedes, Frederick Vesti replaces George Russell. Vesti, a Danish driver and Mercedes test and reserve driver, has previously participated in F1 practice sessions and is eager to continue his development.
Moving to Aston Martin, Felipe Drugovich replaces Fernando Alonso. Drugovich, a Brazilian driver and Aston Martin's reserve, has been active in various motorsport categories and is set to gain his first official F1 practice experience.
Over at Haas, Rio Hirakawa replaces Nico Hulkenberg. Hirakawa, 29, is a Japanese driver with experience in Super Formula and endurance racing. After joining Alpine as a test driver, he switched to Haas for this opportunity.
On to Williams. Luke Browning replaces Carlos Sainz. Browning, a British driver and Williams' academy member, is poised to make his F1 practice debut, showcasing the team's commitment to nurturing young talent.
The upcoming weekend at Bahrain International Circuit, from April 11th to April 13th, 2025, will feature a comprehensive lineup of feeder series races, offering motorsport enthusiasts a full spectrum of open-wheel racing action. These support races are integral to the Formula One weekend, providing a platform for emerging talents to showcase their skills.
Now, for F2. The Bahrain rounds marks the second of the 2025 FIA Formula 2 Championship season. The schedule includes Friday, April 11th with a practice session at 12:05 and till 12:50. Qualifying session from 4:55pm to 5:25pm. Saturday, April 12th, sprint race 5:15pm till 6:05pm. Sunday, April 13th, feature race 2:25pm till 3:30pm.
On to Formula 3. Formula 3 will hold its second round at the Bahrain International Circuit with the following events. On Friday, the 11th of April, they will have a practice session from 10:55am to 11:40am and a qualifying session at 4pm to 4:30pm. On Saturday, April 12th, they will have their sprint race at 1:15pm to 2pm. And on Sunday, the 13th of April, they have a feature race at 5 to 1 until 1:45. Oof, Rafael Kamara, because been successful in.
Yes, I respect that.
Yeah.
So I've gone with Tuka Tappinen. I think he's a good driver. He's proved himself somewhat in S3. I hope he does well. But I have also put him as my F3 sprint race winner as well. So, what about you for your sprint race?
For sprint race, I've gone for Theophane Nail at Van Amersfoort.
Yeah. For my feature race, I've gone for Rafael Kamara. How about you?
Nikita Bedroom at AIX Racing. I think both of them have been quite consistent in placings. Neither been successful on the race yet, but hopefully. But yeah, we'll see.
F2 pole.
F2 pole. think I'd like it to be, as a Premier fan, Gabriele Mini.
Yep.
Yeah, how about you?
I've gone for Richard Verschoor, MP Motorsport. I think, I reckon I have a good weekend. Yeah. When it comes to my sprint race, I've gone for Gabriele Mini. Yeah. What about you?
I've gone for Leonardo Fornaroli at Invicta. Again, I've kind of gone for ones that are placing quite well.
Yeah.
Haven't won because it's kind of like hopefully they might.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Feature race?
Feature race, I've gone for Luke Brannan at High Tech TGR, who's also doing the pre-practice for Williams. I think he's just, again, placing consistently, but especially if you've got F1 teams already calling this early in the season. Same with like Dino Vaganyovic.
Yeah.
Like, but not just out from previous seasons are really good. So hopefully.
For my feature race, I've gone with Arvid Lindblad. I hope he can pull something out of the bag. I mean, last season, his first race in F3, he won that. So can he back to back? Can he repeat? Because I hope he can. He deserves to get himself in a good position. But yeah, he's got some talent behind him. Should we move on to F1? F1 poll?
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you mine?
I was going to say, I'm thinking about it and it's probably going to sound a bit, maybe. I'm kind of hoping, maybe, from his performances in qualifying so far and races, potentially Kimi Antonelli.
That is bold.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I respect it though.
It's very bold and it's very crazy. It's more
Yeah.
like manifest something up. Yeah, hopefully, maybe Kimi, because that would be crazy if a rookie this early into the season, just like you were saying earlier about Max Verstappen won his first race as a rookie, but it's something that happens so rarely where you have a rookie that's really successful.
Yeah.
But he might get pole. You know what I mean? Because it's not the same format as a race, is it? So
True
it's
that.
not the overtaking. You just have to, you just
wherever the car can
to run your laps and it's
Yeah.
you. But I think he's showing a lot of promise. So hopefully, maybe.
I think it has to be one of the Papaya boys. Genuinely, we know how they cope in hot temperatures. We know how they cope with tire degradation. Obviously, Lando's better than Oscar at that, but it's either Lando or Oscar that's got it. I think I might have to go with. See, now whatever I say, I feel like it's gonna follow as the winner.
I was going to say they have different strengths and weaknesses. With
I feel like whoever
tires and
whoever has pole is most likely going to win the race because they're not going to want to keep switching positions. So I feel like I don't know. So I don't want to keep saying Lando, but I actually think Lando will get pole. Race winner. I don't think a McLaren will win, and nor do I think it'll be a Red Bull. I think we might see something special from George Russell.
Ironically, I was going to say the same thing. I was like, I've got a feeling.
Something sneaky is coming from a Mercedes, and I don't know which one it's going to be, but I want to say George.
They've been awfully quiet, haven't they, this season? Normally, they're like, if they're not in it to come, like, if they're not putting up the challenge, they're very vocal about it. Of like, you'll see it everywhere. Of Mercedes have said this. Mercedes are bringing this upgrade. So clearly, there's not.
Yeah.
So I think they're kind of going to come out with a bit of a sneaky. Here we are. We're in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to say
yeah.
George, and I'm going to say George, but I think everyone and quite a lot of people in the F1 community is hoping that Kimi Anthony gets pole because that'd just be fantastic.
I'm hoping that Kimi's going to get pole, but I'm thinking that George Russell might get the win. So, yeah, bit of a crazy predictions.
I mean, it's fantastic. I'm happy with it. But yeah. Anyway, thank you for tuning into our podcast. I've been Dan.
And I've been Chloe.
And this is Stuck in the Gravel.
The voice of a new generation.
This is KIC Radio.